Good morning, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Alexandra Dempsey. I am the CEO of the Khaled bin Sultan Living Oceans Foundation, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our third webinar series, Navigate with Care, Understanding the Aids to Navigation. Today's 60-minute program will feature some brief expert insights, a moderated discussion, and an audience Q&A. We're also recording this session, and the replay will be available afterward for anybody else that would like to share it with their networks. And also there'll be a Q&A session in this webinar. So please drop your questions anytime in the Q&A chat, and we'll collect them for the final segment. Just a quick word about the Navigate with Care campaign. So this is a joint initiative from the Khaled bin Sultan Living Oceans Foundation and the International Foundation for AIDS to Navigation, or IFAN. And really the goal of this campaign is to help boaters, mariners, and coastal communities protect sensitive marine ecosystems through safer and smarter navigation. This campaign is also an official United Nations Ocean Decade activity, and we're very grateful that you are joining us today for this growing community of practice. For those who may not know, IFAN, or the International Aids for Navigation, is a nonprofit that enhances maritime safety worldwide by improving navigation systems, supporting technical expertise, and advancing safe shipping practices, all while reducing risks to the environment. The Khaled bin Sultan Living Oceans Foundation, or KSLOF, is dedicated to conserving coral reefs and tropical marine ecosystems through science education and outreach. And we really believe in inspiring people everywhere to be strong stewards of the ocean and protect the ocean that sustains all of us. Today's focus will be on aids to navigation, or ATONs, as they're often referred to, which are really buoys, beacons, and channel markers that do more than just keep vessels safe. If they're used properly, they prevent, reef groundings, they reduce prop scarring in seagrass, and steer traffic away from marine mammal habitats. And so I'm really, really, really grateful that we have these wonderful experts that have joined us today. So first up, we have Vincent Denamur, who is the Dean of the International Organization for Marine Aids to Navigation Worldwide Academy, or IALA, as it's referred to as, and Mahdi Mosawi, who is the General Manager of the Middle East Navigation Aid Service, Maritime Operations Center. And they will both be speaking to us about their organizations and what roles they play in helping with safe navigation. To start it off, Vincent, as the Dean of IALA, could you please start us off with an introduction on what exactly your organization is and what its role is globally, and how it helps countries integrate ATONs into both maritime safety and marine conservation?
I can do that, yes. Thanks a lot, Alexandra. Of course, I try to keep that the most didactic as possible, because I have a very short time slot, actually. So if I may have the presentation, please, Amy. Excellent. Okay, thanks a lot. So let me to introduce myself again. So I'm the Dean of the Worldwide Academy, a specific wing, a specific body within the International Organization for Aids to Navigation. Next slide, please. So the first question we may have is, what is it about? What is an aid to navigation? So we have a very official definition under the International Convention on IALA. An aid to navigation is barely a device, a system or service external to vessels designed and operated to enhance safe and efficient navigation of individual vessels and/or vessel traffic. So there are two key issues there. The first one is that IALA, or we shall consider as an aid to navigation, only devices or service external to vessel. So we don't consider us as IALA, charts or ENC or EGDIS on the bridge on board the vessel, and we consider external devices or system. And the second important topic is that we consider both individual vessels and the flow of vessels. It's very important. Next slide, please. Yes, because basically there are two great kind of aid to navigation. First, it's about signaling. I'm sorry for the typo. You should put two L there. Signaling is, I would say, the historical way. It's mainly about indicating hazards and navigation routes, channels or waterways to the ship. And it's about also giving or indicating the position, the geographic location, of the vessel. This is the two main goals of signaling when it comes to maritime navigation, and it goes through, of course, buoy, lighthouses, and many signals on the shore or offshore. Next slide, please. However, so during or for centuries, maritime trade relied on aids like lighthouses and buoys, which were eventually enhanced with greater visibility and audible signal. However, by the 40s, during the last century, it became evident that these short-range aids to navigation were insufficient to handle the growing volume of traffic. And as a solution, maritime experts proposed traffic monitoring using land-based devices or services, such like radar or radio communications. And this is the establishment of maritime traffic management measure or services. And then depending on the volume of traffic, depending on the risk that may face all vessels, coastal states have progressively decided to set up maritime traffic management services. It may be either simple traffic separation scheme, so it's like a one-way lane or one-way road on the sea. So you have this great example here in Dover Strait, or French Strait, between UK and France. But it could be as well local port service, or even the most important of them are named vessel traffic services. So vessel traffic services are very important concept when it comes to IMO, the International Maritime Organization, or IALA, because these services to the vessel, to the master vessel, or to the watchkeeper are very important to provide them some safety and some efficiency. VTS basically may provide three main functions. The first one is information provision. So it's about supplying timely and relevant data that can influence the ship movements and assist the crew in decision making. The second service is about traffic monitoring and management. Remember, vessel traffic is the flow. So it's about supervising and controlling ship traffic to ensure safe and efficient movement. It's mainly about avoiding collision between vessels. And of course, it's the third and last mission is about responding to hazardous situations. The point is to act in potentially dangerous situations to prevent them from escalating into major incidents. So signaling, maritime traffic management are the two main legs of aid to navigation. Next, please. And now, what about IALA? IALA, so this is the acronym for International Convention, for the International Organization for Marine Aid to Navigation. So it doesn't fit together, but actually we have kept the same logo and the same branding, I would say, the same brand, as actually a rather old entity, because before last year, actually, IALA was a charity. It was a non-profit body under the French law. it was what we named then the Association for Aid to Navigation, I would say, the International Association for Lighthouses and Aid to Navigations. And since last year, it has been, I would say, upgraded as an governmental organization. So rather than just bringing together department or administration, since last year, and to be very accurate, since August 24, IALA brings together governments and coastal states. And we are very happy from now on to count 41 full members, 41 member states, as we say, as an intergovernmental organization. And what is very important is that we have two other kinds of membership, and we have a mixed. This is what I call the hybrid membership within IALA. We have a mix of associate member. Actually, it's quite provisional because we have in this category the former national members of the association. I mean the former administration and national departments which handle aid to navigations. But in the future, we will have as well non-sovereign territories, such like New Caledonia for France or Hong Kong for China. So we have there 56 associate members, and the most important, actually, together with the full member state, are the 257 affiliate members. And actually, within this category, we bring together more than 170 industrial members and almost 80 science or technical institutes. Actually, the real experts within IALA are there, and this category, I mean affiliate member, is instrumental of paramount importance when it comes to the work of IALA. And barely so, we are very happy to put together 101 countries and territories from now on. So the transformation of IALA from a French law charity to the intergovernmental organization is a real success, and we count new full members each month. When we prepared this meeting, it was a couple of days ago, we had only 39 members. We were very happy to welcome, during last week, Argentina and Iceland. Next, please. So, I have talked about what is IALA, so what is it for now? So IALA carry out mainly three missions. First, the main important one is about harmonizing and improving standards for aid to navigation systems worldwide. The second one is to encourage and facilitate the adoption, the implementation of the highest practical standards, similarly worldwide. And it's very important, and I will elaborate about that. And then, and it's very logical, this is a continuation, I would say, we must promote access to technical cooperation on capacity building worldwide. And for that, there is this specific body, which is the Worldwide Academy. And all that, and I may refer you to the International Convention about IALA, which was adopted in 2020 in Malaysia in February 2020. So, next, please. The first achievement and the first aim of the historical IALA, I mean the former association, was about harmonization. And the first achievement was in the 80s. It was, yes, in the 80s, during last century. It was about publishing, elaborating, of course, drafting, elaborating, negotiating. It was about the famous IALA Maritime buoyage system. Actually, this is the first time in the maritime history that all the member states were able to negotiate an harmonized system of buoyage and signaling. And it was a tremendous task because before the beginning of the negotiation, at that time, we counted more than 30 buoyage system. And we were very happy, so 40 years ago, to have success, to get success, and to agree on two lateral systems for channeling. This is the red and green buoy you may see on the screen. And we have, for the other kind of signals of buoyage and lighthouse, we have only one system, which is applicable all over the world. And this system is scalable, I would say, and is alive, because we were very happy to update it lastly in 2023. It was about integrating maritime autonomous vessels, and it was about integrating new stuff, such like the signaling of wreck of vessel, for instance. Next, please. I said a few minutes ago, I mentioned the importance, the tremendous role of industrial member of industry within IALA. And it's very important to note that IALA may be distinguished because it enables to carry out its work successfully in making great cooperation, a very dense cooperation between member state, administration or department, and industry. It's very important. And we are able to put together more than 350 members so as to work together and to deliver our documentation, our standards. And for that, we have 4 very specific bodies named technical committees. We have, for instance, a committee for requirement and management of ATON, the arm one, and I may name as well the one named DTEC, meaning Digital Technologies Committee. And we like to name these technical committees as the power room or the engine room of IALA. The technical knowledge, the preparation, the drafting of our standards start there in these technical committees, and they are of paramount importance. Next, please. And the result of the technical committees relies in the IALA documentation. So it's, I would say, it's a very important documentation, quite big one actually. I will give you some figures, but under or within the technical committee, we are able to develop common standards based on best practices in the form of recommendations and guides to ensure that navigators have aids to navigation that will meet their current and future needs. It's very important in a very fast changing world to be able to follow the needs of the vessel and seafarers. And the result of the work of the committees are, in essence, only guidance documents. They are not legally binding for many reasons. Only a couple of reasons could be the fact this is very technical and very detailed specification. And the second one is that ATON, aid to navigation, are basically a sovereignty issue for coastal states. So it could be complicated to have this documentation as mandatory. But meanwhile, they are universally acknowledged as an authoritative package of best practices. Actually, there are 7 standards which IMO and other organizations may refer to, and it happens when it comes to vessel traffic services. And then these 7 standards are broken up in 76 recommendations. Mainly recommendations are about what's to be done to adopt best practices and to be compliant with best practices. And then we have, this is at the bottom of this pyramid, we have more than 170 guidelines. And guidelines are about how to. It's very detailed and very with many specifications. So it's a huge documentation, and this is the Magna Carta, I would say, when it comes to altitude navigation. Next, please. And so within IALA, you will find a special department for elaborating, drafting, and publishing the IALA documentation. And then we have the other wing, which is about helping coastal states to implement the IALA documentation, but as well to be compliant with the international convention, such like the SOLAS Convention, the Safety of Life Convention within the IMO, I would say, perimeter or area. And for that, we have this very successful initiative which concerns the training standards created for different level of vessel traffic services, VTS operators, and more recently, we have also become an important player in the full aids to navigation training and capacity building through the activity of the Worldwide Academy. The academy was established in 2012, so it's a quite recent, a quite young entity. It's an integral but independently funded part of IALA because we want to work for the benefit, for the profit of non-member state or member state. Actually, we want to help coastal states regardless of their membership. So we have specific and independent fund coming from huge sponsors, and the first of them is well known because this is IFAN. And we are very happy to contact IFAN for our operations, us as the Worldwide Academy. The Academy has a very simple strategy with three primary pillars. So firstly, to conduct seminars, workshops, and other events to raise awareness. This is about that mainly, of high-level decision makers about their obligations as a coastal state when it comes to safety of navigation. Secondly, this is the educate. We are able to provide a suite of relevant education and training opportunities for as many as possible. Last year, we were very happy to educate more than 280 civil servants or Coast Guard people. And thirdly, we are keen to engage with developing states to build their competencies and capacity to provide high-quality aids to navigation services. And let me now introduce you or briefly highlight four key issues that are currently high on the IALA agenda. Next, please. So it's mainly about IALA's drivers and trends, and maybe we will be back to that during the Q&A part of this webinar. Of course, autonomy is a top priority on IALA's agenda, as we strive to anticipate future needs for air to navigation and vessel traffic services. And a recent IALA study indicates that we have some time to prepare as large-scale deployment of unmanned ship or smart ship, I would say, and we have maybe still have more than 20 years for that. For the foreseeable future, meanwhile, we can expect a mixed fleet comprising conventional ships with varying very different levels of automation alongside a growing number of autonomous vessels. And of course, we shall not forget traditional vessels. So we need to cope in the future with a large scope of vessel. The second very important topic is about, so after virtual and physical aid to navigation, maybe we will come back to that once again, we have the issue of harmonization still, because it's very important, it's even essential to the success of global digital solutions. Actually, it's mainly about, at this level, about digitalization or digital technologies. And like physical health, digital data, digital services, such like virtual aid to navigation, requires the same level of harmonization. So IALA plays a key role in advancing harmonization projects such as S100. This is the new geospatial data framework, S100, so promoted by the IATSO, the International Hydrographic Organization, where IALA serves as the custodian of the S200 series dedicated to aid to navigation. But basically, we can say that digitalization and decarbonization go hand in hand, and IALA is supporting this transition, for instance, through the establishment of green corridors. We would like to be part of that, aside IMO, for instance. And green corridors contribute to decarbonization through various initiatives, including optimized routing operations, just-in-time arrivals and enhanced terminal efficiency, energy management, and autonomous navigation system. According to recent research, these measures have the potential to reduce the sector's emission by 38% or more. And when it comes to digital stuff or topics, a very important issue is about resiliency. In the strategic or in the geopolitical context we face now worldwide, it's very important to have resilient radioelectric systems of navigation and radio communication as well. So it's very important to have basically resilient position, navigation, and timing. And this is the fourth driver to our missions, I would say, to our work, because the vulnerability of global navigation satellite system, GNDSS, to disruption has been recognized since its inception, actually, with interference from natural causes, such like the sun, solar emissions, as well as intentional and unintentional jamming or spoofing, which are now well documented, actually. So the growing reliance on automated systems, both on board and ashore, raises serious concerns about the safety of navigations. And resilient positioning, navigation, and timing remain critical issues today. And IALA continues to be a leading pioneer in developing robust and sustainable solutions. So, next, please. This is it. I hope I am not too long. Just keep in mind this famous motto when it comes to IALA, successful voyages and sustainable planet. I thank you for your attention.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vincent. That was a lot of information about IALA that I definitely learned a lot more. This is definitely a new topic for me to learn about as well. So thank you, and really keen to hear more about S200. That seems like the wave of the future. Everything is becoming automated, and it seems like IALA really is the gold international standard for ATONs. Next we have Mahdi. Mahdi, could you start by giving us a brief introduction to the MENAS Maritime Operations Center and how they deliver ATONs across the Middle East region? I believe you're still muted, I believe, Mahdi.
Thank you, Alexander.
Yes.
And a special thanks to Khaled and Sultan Association for providing this opportunity. I hope my voice is clear.
Yeah. Clear. Yep.
Okay, so if you please put up the presentation. I'll be talking about MENAS services. Middle East Navigation Services was established in Bahrain in 1950, where the first establishment was goes back to 1911. And it was the first aids to navigation organization of that time. So today it's either a member or affiliates with those entities that you can see on the screen. Can you turn the next slide? Next slide, please. Yeah, so once, if you can go back to the previous one, please. Yeah, thank you. So MENAS have 5 main activities, which all falls under the safety of navigation and environment. including our contribution in IALA committees for working on the publications like the standards, guidelines, and recommendations that Vincent have showed us a while ago. So the main services are providing ASO navigation. In the international passages, we have maritime safety information, a differential global positioning system, which is more accurate than the GPS, and also ATON risk assessment. And the fifth service is ASO navigation training. Next slide, please. MENAS owns and maintains a network of ASO navigation in our region. If you can see in the picture, is varies between buoys and lighthouses throughout the Gulf, and all of them are categorized as Cat 1 according to IALA standard, which means it's vital, marking either danger or the entrance of the main ports in the Gulf. Next slide, please. Yeah, the second service is MSI. MENAS is responsible for sending navigation warning through the VHF and on behalf and acting as a sub-coordinator of Area 9 on behalf of Bahrain government. The navigation warning being broadcasted through Bahrain radio covers 300 miles, as you see on the map down there, where the vessels can receive the warnings and before entering the Gulf to avoid hazard and like development and operation areas. And MENAS was, according to the annual report from the main coordinator, which is Pakistan Navy, MENAS is the most active entity in Area 9. So the third service is the differential global positioning system, where MENAS providing a free-to-air service. So as simple as that, you can buy a DGPS and turn it on in the Gulf, and you will get an accuracy for less than a meter for your position. It's mostly used by big ships, but even and surveyors, but even anyone can use it because MENAS have provided this service for free since 1997. Next slide, please. So the fourth activity for MENAS is training. These were, since 2017, MENAS been accredited by Trinity House using our registry in the UK from our parent company, IFAN. And we started delivering the ASO navigation courses. We started with level 3, which is ATON foundation course, which is suitable for all concerned in maritime sector, that to introduce the trainees with types, shapes, and basic information about ASO navigation and familiarize them with those ASO navigations. So the second training was the level 2 IALA ATON technician or engineers course, which is for candidates that engineers that working in ASO navigation fields, to train them on how to fix and maintain ASO navigation. And we have delivered this recently back on May 2025 in Bahrain. There was nearly from 6 different countries from the region, candidates from 6 different countries in the region. And soon we will be delivering level 1, which it will be also first of its kind in the region, where the level 2 was the same. It was the first time in our region. We will be delivering IALA ATON manager course probably in January, planning for January 2026. And we have delivered an MSI course for publication of navigation warnings and notice to mariner for chart update with a collaboration with IHO, not UKHO, with IHO and with the help of UKHO as well for candidates from our region and from South Asia region as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are some pictures of the training courses that we have delivered since 2023. The pandemic have slower this, as you may notice, because we got the accreditation on 2000, completed the accreditation 2019, but the pandemic started. So that's why we've been delayed a bit. But level 3 is a very important training as our perspective, because this will, can be tailored to any division, or so it can be can include more information or less information on the demand of the candidates that will be during this attending this training. Next slide, please. The fifth service is H navigation risk assessment. We have divided the Gulf into 8 zones where our buoys are, and we are conducting a regular risk assessment to make sure that the services and the H navigation, the buoys and lighthouses that we have provided are doing what required from it, and they are doing functioning what's necessary. Can you next slide, please? Yeah, so including the risk assessment that we do, we have another service which is in the field of the ATON risk assessment, is ATON survey projects that we have conducted. The first one back on 2003 and 4 in Oman. We have, then the second one was for Abu Dhabi Ports Company in UAE back on 2010. And recently we have done the same project for Bahrain government, where we have, where we attend each and single H navigation to do an evaluation and to see what necessarily changes needed. Next slide, please. So the mechanism of that survey is dividing the waterway into zones, and depending on the complexity of each zone, we divide them to sub-zones to do a proper assessment for each and single area. Next slide, please. These are the tools that we use for the risk assessment, the DGPS, the sonar to check the depth. We rely on nautical charts as well to match up to see the depth, whether it's in a proper depth or not. We use 2 IALA risk assessment tools, which is SERA and IRAP, which relies on the actual boats and vessel movement and calculates the probability of collision, elision, and so on. And we reflect the changes that we advise the authorities with using IALA publications such as Marine Voyage System, the MBS, and the Nav Guide. And we do the necessary changes on the, by issuing a notice to mariner on the nautical charts and the international ones and the sailing direction. Next slide, please. This is an example of one of the areas that we have covered and we conducted a risk assessment on. And the first page, you may see the movement of the boats. This was a shallow waterway area used mostly by leisure boats. In the second picture, we did an assessment to an existing ACE navigation in that area. Then we prepared the database. We provided the advice to the authority based on the risk assessment we did. As you see on the fourth picture down there, we did the changes required for that channel, and the final result, as you see on the fifth picture in the middle. Next slide, please. Yeah, so yeah, this is an example on how aids to navigation would protect natural preserves. So if you can see on the right, you can see an isolated danger buoy marking a reef. The lines that you see is the actual vessel and boat's movement. So they are avoiding the reef in the middle. And in the picture in the top left is an example of buoys also, North Cardinal, that guiding the vessels to go to up north and to avoid the reef. And the picture in the left down is some buoys marking a traffic separation scheme at TSS. And the last picture in the down middle, which is special marks marking a reef. So like drawing a boundary around a reef to protect it from boats and vessels and mariners to get it. Next slide. I think this is, yeah, that's the end of my presentation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mahdi. That was a lot of detailed information on how in the Middle East region that the aids navigation are being deployed and are being monitored and used for not only protection of the mariners who are at sea, but also protecting the sensitive habitats that are marked there by the buoys and markers. I see that we already have lots of questions already in the chat. So if the panelists don't mind, we'll just, some are for the group and some are for directed individuals. Let's see here. So I have a couple here from Aurelien, specifically to discuss IALA. Is IALA documentation endorsed by the IMO? I'm not sure what the IMO is, but that's the first question related to that. And then is there a relationship with ITU, and what is the status of IALA, and is it equal with IMO and ICAO, which are UN specialized agencies? Vincent, I think you might be able to read through the alphabet soup there, so please.
Yeah, it's a batch of interesting questions, or very relevant question. First, there is huge difference between the IMO, International Maritime Organization documentation, and the IALA documentation. IMO is a very important entity. This is a United Nations agency fully dedicated to the maritime domain and to the safety of navigation and the marine environment protection. Mainly, usually, the documentation from IMO is binding. It's soft law, of course. It's all about diplomacy and public international law, but it's about binding mandatory documentation. So, however, when it comes to the IALA documentation, which is not binding, it may appear that it's very important that some of our output of some of our results are to be binding, actually, because they are very important. And we are very happy then to give that as an input to the work of IMO. We are very happy to integrate, to be part of the agenda of some specialized committee within IMO. And then we are very happy to have our documentation, our work endorsed, I would say, by IMO. And this is usually the case when it comes to vessel traffic services. For instance, the last IMO resolution on VTS published in 2021 is actually 90% based on the work of IALA technical committees. Secondly, and of course, being from now on an IGO like IMO, make very comfortable, very easy collaboration with IMO for my part. Secondly, of course, we have great cooperation with radio communication area or field. And so we have many contacts with ITU and with other private bodies, because ITU is an intergovernmental organization, but we have very good cooperation with CIRM, for instance, or CERN. So regional or worldwide private organization for radio communication. But actually, we don't work, frankly, we don't work with ICAO, we don't work with ICAO, because our two domains, I would say, are getting closer with digital technologies and very new topics or issues. But this is not the same issues at stake. We don't have the same concern. We don't have the same legal and technical issues. So we don't work so much with ICAO.
Thank you so much, Vincent. I have a question here for Mahdi. With heavy maritime traffic across the Gulf region, what emerging challenges do you see for ATON management?
Yeah, thank you for that. We have noticed that our services was provided for nearly 2,000 vessels a month. This was back, 10 years back. And now we have noticed that due to the demand for mostly energy, the traffic have massively increased by twice or 3 times since 10 years. But with a new technology and the communication actually helped us a lot, to have the safe and this complicated waterways so safe. Actually, the use of social media, helped a lot to keep the mariners informed on time, so they can take the precautions. Although we are sending NAVTEX through VHF, and also the main coordinator sends the navigation warning through the safety net, for example. We have the physical ATON, but the media played a big role on that, where because we are publishing those on our website day by day, and keeping all the concerns informed at the right time.
Great, thank you. Another question here for Vincent. Is there a possibility to read the syllabus for ATON engineers?
So actually, IALA published so frequently what we call model courses. And when it comes to aid to navigation, I would say ATON, buoys, lighthouses, virtual and physical ATON, we have many model courses. All these model courses, and is as well for, it's the same, it's similar for VTS, are of course fully available within the IALA website. You have a specific web page about our model courses, and aside, I would say, standards, recommendation and guidelines. Actually, when it comes to engineer and technician, so it's all about level 2, as we say, technicians of ATON, we have 30 modules within this model course. So it could take a long time. It could take several weeks, of course, to carry out this training.
Thank you. And then I have a question here for the group. So if Vincent, you want to go ahead first with Mahdi following. What role can partnerships between governments, private industry, and local communities play in maintaining ATONs in conservation zones?
Oh, it's very interesting as well. If I may, Mahdi, of course, the dialogue between experts and engineers and authorities is of paramount importance because ATON, so either buoyage or signaling or VTS or traffic management, are more and more technical and in a fast changing world. So we need to have a great and very dense dialogue between both, once again, authorities and engineer. And I have a very good example of benefit for the protection of marine environment and even for the protection of marine mammal habitat. And the best example is in Canada, actually, thanks to what we call digital maritime services or marine services, such like digital platform for the exchange of information, of data between the ship and the shore, on shore-based services. It's very easy in Canada for the captain, for the master, to report the position of mammals, and then to have the coastal state, meaning the Coast Guard from Canada, to forecast not only radio communication information for ships, be careful and please reduce speed. This is the traditional way, I would say. But once more, from now on, Canada is able to set up provisional virtual aid to navigation, temporary aid to navigation, so as to signal the area in which there are mammals. And so please, the ship, reduce your speed. And on the screen of electronic navigation chart, the master, the watchkeeper knows, okay, I am entering an area with mammals, so I must reduce my speed.
Thank you. No, that's a fantastic example. Thank you, Vincent. Mahdi, do you have any thoughts?
Sorry. Regarding, sorry, can you say the question again?
Sure.
Yeah.
What role can partnerships between governments, private industry, and local communities play in maintaining ATONs and conservation zones?
It is like in my perspective and what we are doing now, we are encouraging the government in our region to, first of all, educate and set up the proper rules. The rules for, big ships are set up and made by big organizations such as IMO, IALA, and so on. But for the seafarers and, leisure boats and all of that, we are encouraging them, and some of those authorities are taking the steps on educating them about the use of ATON navigation, because some of the ATON navigation are there for bigger draft vessels, and some others are for smaller boats, and on how to avoid being in, like, for example, a deep water channel, and to pass, and how to give priority to bigger vessels, the use of ATON, and to set up the rule on things to do with ATON navigation. For example, if they didn't follow up, if someone's tie up on the boat in the main channel, to be, to warn that this is not a proper action, because this may cause a disaster, that we can say. So one of them is setting up the rule, educating them, then enforcing these rules for the smaller boat users.
Okay, thank you. I have another question here, which I think is for the group. Why is a vessel traffic service operator certification not made mandatory the same way a certificate of competency is required for seafarers, despite both being safety critical rules within the maritime domain?
If I may, Mahdi, again.
Yes.
Basically, this is about international standard for the education of seafarers. if I understand well. And for that, there is a very important framework under the umbrella of IMO named STCW. And within STCW, which is basically a kind of model course, I would say, our main goals when it comes to education and knowledge and skill for seafarers. So under this international convention, actually, from IMO, STCW, there are some, of course, parts dedicated to aid to navigation, including VTS. But yes, we don't consider us as IALA the training of seafarers when it comes to VTS, for instance. But we are very happy when we deliver some technical missions in countries, and mainly in need countries or developing countries. We are very happy to give some lecture, to give some conference in these countries. And an interesting thing maybe mentioned, it's about fishermen, because STCW is very efficient when it comes to merchant vessels and merchant seafarers, but it's not so elaborated for fishermen. This is another part of the convention, and we have developed last year for some in-need countries special lecture on conference on awareness for fishermen in in-need countries. So yes, it's not our main goal, I would say, our main target, but we have that in mind, and we discuss, we are conducting discussion and talk with IMO so as to enhance STCW when it comes to ATON.
Thank you so much, Vincent. And I see that we're about 3 minutes left, 3 minutes left on the webinar today. And I want to thank our participants so much for joining, and thank you all in the audience for some very thoughtful questions and very interesting discussions on a topic that I did not know much about, but have been informed very much so during this past hour. And on behalf of the Living Oceans Foundation and IFAN, I think the message that's been given today is clear, right? So using ATONs and using up-to-date charts is not only important for people operating on the ocean to stay safe, but also to protect really important ecosystems and marine mammals such as boats that sometimes can be negatively impacted by all of the ship traffic that is happening around the world. And so again, this presentation has been recorded, and the resources in the chat can also be found on the Living Oceans Foundation Living Oceans Foundation's website and IFAN's website that has a page dedicated specifically to the Navigate with Care campaign, where you can also log in and take the pledge to continue to navigate with care for not only the protection of the safety of those operating vessels on the water, but also for the habitats that are so precious to be protected. We also have another webinar, the last webinar of the series, that will be on October 16th, which will be focused on reefs as nature's ally. So this webinar will focus on spotlighting how coastal marine ecosystems protect coastlines as well as benefit boaters and other communities. And with that, I want to thank you all so much again for participating. And any last final words from Vincent or Mahdi as we close the session?
Nothing, just thank you for providing this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all so much. And again, please check those links and in the chat there, and lots of information on IALA and MENAS. And again, thank you for your expertise so much, Vincent and Mahdi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to you.